living without anxiety controlling your life. It's possible. You just need to learn to see things differently. Buddhists figured this out centuries ago, and over the next 3 hours, I'm going to share those teachings with you, not as ancient philosophy, but as practical medicine for your modern mind. Tools to recover your calm, release the tension you've been carrying, and return to your center. All you need to do is listen. And gradually, gently, peace will find its way back into your life. Hello, friend. I'm genuinely glad you're here. If you'd like, leave a comment, even just a word or two about how you're feeling right now. You're not alone in this. Now make yourself comfortable. Grab a blanket, dim the lights, lie down if that feels good. This is your time. For these next 3 hours, let everything else fade into the background. Maybe anxiety visits you daily, or maybe it appears in waves. Maybe you're exhausted from fighting it, or maybe you're simply seeking deeper peace. However you got here, you're in the right place. Because what you're about to discover isn't about willpower or trying harder. It's about seeing differently. And when you see differently, everything shifts. Not because you're broken and need fixing, but because you're human and you deserve to remember what calm feels like. Buddhism is here to show you the way home. Let me tell you what Buddhism doesn't promise, because this matters more than you might think. It won't make anxiety disappear forever. It won't build an invisible shield around your nervous system. It won't turn you into someone who never feels stressed, worried, or afraid. And honestly, that's the most liberating news you'll hear today. Because what Buddhism actually offers is something far more real, far more lasting, and infinitely more powerful. It offers you a completely transformed relationship with anxiety itself. You'll still feel the flutter in your chest when uncertainty arrives. You'll still notice tension creeping into your shoulders when deadlines loom. You'll still experience that electric current of worry when someone you love is hurting. But here's what changes, and this changes everything. Anxiety will no longer be your master. Think of it this way. Right now, when anxiety shows up, it's like a wave that crashes over you and pulls you under. You get swept away, tumbling in the current, gasping for air, completely at its mercy. But after walking this Buddhist path for a while, something shifts. The waves still come. They always do, but now you know how to surf them. You feel the rise, you adjust your balance, you ride it without drowning. The wave doesn't own you anymore. This understanding comes from a teaching that's over 2,500 years old, yet speaks directly to our modern exhaustion. It's called the Four Noble Truths, and before your mind says, "That sounds complicated, let me share it," the way it was always meant to be understood, as a story about waking up. 26 centuries ago, there was a young man named Siddhartha who lived in a palace. His father, terrified that his son would become a wandering monk instead of a king, tried to protect him from everything difficult. No sickness was allowed near him. No elderly people crossed his path. Death itself was hidden behind palace walls. Siddhartha lived surrounded by beauty, pleasure, and carefully curated perfection. Sound familiar? We do this too, don't we? We scroll past the painful posts. We avoid difficult conversations. We keep ourselves so busy that we never have to sit with what's actually brewing inside. We build our own palace walls, thinking if we just arrange things perfectly enough, anxiety won't find us there. But here's what happened to Siddhartha. One day, curiosity won. He left the palace and encountered what Buddhist teachings call the four sights: a sick person, an elderly person, a corpse, and finally, a wandering monk with a peaceful face. In a single afternoon, his carefully constructed reality shattered. He saw that suffering exists. He couldn't unsee it. And more than that, he realized something that changed the trajectory of his entire life. Avoiding suffering doesn't make it disappear. It just makes you more fragile when it inevitably arrives. This is the first noble truth, and it's not pessimistic, it's compassionate. Dukkha exists. Anxiety, stress, dissatisfaction, that gnawing sense that something's not quite right. These are part of being human. You're not broken because you feel them. You're awake. Siddhartha left everything: the palace, the comfort, the denial, and went searching for a way through. He tried extreme self-denial, nearly starving himself to death. That didn't work. He tried intense meditation practices that left him exhausted. That didn't work either. And then, sitting under a tree, he stopped trying to fight reality and instead chose to observe it with extraordinary clarity. What he discovered became the second noble truth. Anxiety has a cause. It's not random, it's not punishment, and it's not a character flaw. It arises from tanha. This word means craving, but it's deeper than wanting things. It's the constant need for life to be different than it is right now. It's the mental argument with reality that never stops. This shouldn't be happening. I should be further along. If only things were different, then I'd be okay. That resistance, that pushing and pulling against what is, that's where so much of our suffering gets amplified. But here's where it gets beautiful. The third noble truth says, this suffering can be transformed. Not someday, not in another life, not after you become perfect, but here, in this very existence, with this very mind. When you stop adding that second layer of struggle, when you stop fighting the waves and learn to move with them, Instead, something loosens. Space appears. Breath returns. And the fourth noble truth, it's the path itself, the practices we'll explore together over these next 3 hours. Ways of being present, of observing your mind, of returning to your body, of releasing the shoulds that strangle your peace. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you are beneath all the noise. When Siddhartha finally stood up from under that tree, he wasn't someone who never felt discomfort again. He got tired. He experienced physical pain. He faced criticism and betrayal. But his relationship to all of it had fundamentally changed. He was no longer at war with his own experience. And that is what's possible for you too. This is medicine for the mind, not magic for the ego. Buddhism won't hand you a life free from challenges. It won't eliminate every uncomfortable feeling. What it will do is teach you how to stop making everything worse by resisting, avoiding, or believing every catastrophic thought that drifts through your awareness. Over the next 3 hours, we're going to walk this path together, not as a lecture, but as an exploration, not as a fix, but as a homecoming. You'll hear stories that mirror your own struggles. You'll encounter practices so simple they might seem too easy to work, until you try them and feel something shift. You'll discover that the peace you've been searching for everywhere else has been waiting patiently inside you all along. This isn't a one-time miracle cure. You won't finish these 3 hours and never feel anxious again. What you will have is a toolkit, a compass, a way of seeing that makes the next moment of anxiety less overwhelming than the last. And then the next one, easier, still. And gradually, you'll realize you're living differently. You're breathing more deeply. You're reacting less quickly. You're present more often. The same life circumstances might still be there, but you're meeting them from a different place, a place of clarity instead of chaos, of wisdom instead of worry. This is what Buddhism actually offers. Not the elimination of the human experience, but the transformation of your relationship to it. Not a promise that you'll never feel anxiety, but a guarantee that anxiety doesn't have to run your life anymore. And that, my friend, is worth every moment of this journey. So take a breath. Settle a little deeper into wherever you're listening from. Let your body soften, even just a fraction. Because what comes next might just change everything. There's a disease spreading through modern life, and most of us don't even realize we're infected. It doesn't show up on medical tests. No doctor will diagnose it, but you feel it every single day. This constant internal pressure to move faster, do more, keep up, never stop. The disease of hurry. And here's what nobody tells you. This rush, this relentless velocity you've normalized, is not just exhausting you. It's feeding your anxiety like oxygen feeds fire. We live in a culture that profits from your exhaustion. Every app is designed to keep you scrolling, every notification engineered to fragment your attention, every product promising to save you time, so you can fill that time with more tasks, more productivity, more doing. The algorithm knows exactly how to keep you hooked, distracted, perpetually unsatisfied. You're not imagining it. The speed has been weaponized. And your nervous system is paying the price. Think about your morning. You probably woke to an alarm that jolted you from sleep, immediately reached for your phone before your eyes fully opened, scrolled through messages and news while still in bed, then rushed through a shower, grabbed whatever food was quickest, checked email while drinking coffee, mentally rehearsing your day while brushing your teeth. And you were already tired before you even left the house. This is what I mean by the disease of hurry. You're racing before the race even begins. Because here's what's happening inside you when you rush. Your body cannot tell the difference between running from a tiger and running to a meeting. Biologically, urgency is urgency. Threat is threat. So when you live in constant hurry, checking your phone while eating breakfast, thinking about tonight's dinner while you're still at lunch, rehearsing tomorrow's presentation while trying to fall asleep, your nervous system stays locked in survival mode. Your heart rate elevates. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tense. Your digestion slows down because your body thinks you need all available energy for running or fighting. And your mind, sensing danger, starts scanning for threats that aren't there. This is how chronic anxiety takes root. Not because something terrible is happening, but because you've taught your body that everything is urgent, everything matters, everything needs to be done right now. The sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, was designed for short bursts. See danger, respond, return to baseline. But when you're rushing from the moment you wake until you collapse at night, that system never gets to reset. You're running on stress hormones all day long, and your body starts to believe this is normal. This becomes your baseline. No wonder you're exhausted. No wonder you can't relax even when you have time to rest. Your nervous system has forgotten what safety feels like. The Buddha said something 2,500 years ago that cuts right through this madness. The trouble is, you think you have time. At first, this sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? We rush because we think we don't have time. But look deeper. We rush because we believe there will be a moment, someday, later, eventually, when we can finally rest, finally be present, finally feel okay. We're constantly trading this moment for an imaginary future moment when things will be better, calmer, more complete. After this project is done, then I'll relax. After I get that promotion, then I'll slow down. After the kids are older, after I have more money, after everything falls into place, then I'll finally be able to breathe. But that moment never arrives, because you keep pushing it forward. The goalpost keeps moving, and you keep running toward a finish line that doesn't exist. Let me share a story that changed how I understand this. There was a Zen monk in Japan who lived near a busy train station in Tokyo, one of the most chaotic intersections of humanity you can imagine. Thousands of people rushing in every direction, announcements blaring, the roar of trains arriving and departing every few minutes, the constant surge of urgency. Salary workers rushing to not be late, tourists frantically consulting maps, everyone moving as if their life depended on speed. A Western journalist visited this monk and asked him, "How can you possibly meditate here? How can you find peace in the middle of all this chaos? Don't you want to live somewhere quieter?" The monk smiled. He said, "I don't try to find peace despite the chaos. I simply walk slowly." The journalist looked confused. Slowly? That's the secret? And then the monk demonstrated. While everyone around him rushed past, briefcases swinging, faces tight with stress, bodies leaning forward as if perpetually late, eyes glued to phones, this monk walked through the station with such deliberate slowness that people parted around him like water around a stone. Each step conscious, grounded, complete before the next one began. Each breath intentional, full, unhurried. Not because he had nowhere to be, but because he understood something most of us have forgotten. Speed is a choice, and so is presence. The journalist watched, mesmerized. He noticed something remarkable. While everyone else looked stressed, tight, disconnected, the monk's face was completely relaxed. His shoulders were soft. His breathing was visible, steady, deep. And there was something in his eyes, a clarity, an aliveness that everyone rushing past him had lost somewhere along the way. That monk was practicing something Buddhism calls samatha, the art of calming the mind. Not by escaping to a quiet mountaintop, but by choosing stillness within movement. By refusing to let the world's velocity become his velocity. And here's what's beautiful. When you stop running, even for a moment, your mind begins to settle naturally. Like muddy water left undisturbed, clarity returns on its own. You don't have to fight for calm. You don't have to manufacture peace through force of will. You just have to stop fighting against this moment. But our culture tells you the opposite, doesn't it? It tells you that slowing down is laziness. That rest is something you earn only after you've exhausted yourself. That presence is a luxury you can't afford when there's so much to do. That if you're not busy, you're not valuable. And so you keep running through breakfast, through conversations, through your own life, always arriving, but never really there. I want you to understand something crucial. This isn't your fault. You didn't create this culture of speed. You were born into it. You were trained for it from childhood. From the moment you entered school, you were taught that faster equals better, that efficiency equals worth, that your value is measured by your output. Gold stars for finishing first, praise for never stopping, admiration for those who sacrifice sleep, and sanity for productivity. No wonder you're exhausted. No wonder anxiety feels like a permanent resident in your chest. But here's the revolutionary truth Buddhism offers. Slowness is not weakness. Slowness is power. When you choose to slow down, you're not being lazy or unproductive or falling behind. You're reclaiming your nervous system from a culture that wants it dysregulated, wants you too scattered to question, too tired to resist. You're telling your body, we are safe. There is no tiger chasing us. This moment, right here, is enough. And your body listens. It begins to exhale. Shoulders drop. Jaw unclenches. Breathing deepens. Heart rate slows. The parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode, finally gets permission to come online. And in that softening, anxiety loses its grip, because anxiety needs urgency to survive. When you refuse to rush, you pull the oxygen away from the fire. This doesn't mean you stop being responsible or productive. It means you stop conflating speed with effectiveness. Because the truth is, when you slow down, when you bring full presence to one thing at a time, you actually become more capable, more creative, more clear. You're not scattering your energy across 17 half-done tasks. You're focusing it, concentrating it, making it matter. Think about the last time you rushed through a meal. Did you even taste it? Or was it just fuel, mechanically consumed while your mind was already 3 steps ahead? Or the last conversation you had while checking your phone, did you really hear what the other person was saying? Or that project you hurried through just to check it off your list, did you feel any satisfaction or just immediate pressure to move on to the next thing? This is what hurry steals from you. Not time, but life itself. The texture of it, the taste of it, the feeling of actually being here for your own existence. The practice begins with awareness. Start noticing when you're rushing. Not to judge yourself, but simply to see it. Feel your body leaning forward, always ahead of itself. Notice your breath getting shallow, trapped high in your chest. Observe your mind already 3 steps ahead of where your feet actually are. And in that noticing, you create a gap, a tiny space between the habit and your response to it. The habit says, rush. But in the gap, you have a choice. You can keep running, or you can take one breath and slow down. Just one breath. That's all it takes to begin reclaiming your time, reclaiming your nervous system, reclaiming your life from the tyranny of speed. The monk in Tokyo Station understood this. He didn't need the world to slow down for him to find peace. He didn't wait for perfect conditions or a quieter life. He simply refused to let the world's panic become his panic. And you can do this too. Right where you are, right in the middle of your complicated, full, demanding life. You can choose slowness. And in doing so, you choose sanity. You choose presence. You choose yourself. Now let's talk about what it actually means to be present, because this is where everything shifts. The present moment. You've heard this phrase 1,000 times, haven't you? It's become almost cliché in wellness circles. Be here now, they say, as if it's obvious, as if you're not already here. But the truth is, most of us spend almost no time in the actual present. Your body is here, yes, sitting or standing or lying down, physically occupying this space. But where is your mind? It's replaying yesterday's conversation, analyzing what you should have said differently. It's rehearsing tomorrow's meeting, scripting responses to questions that haven't been asked yet. It's planning next week, next month, 5 years from now, constructing elaborate scenarios about a future that may never arrive. Or it's lost in fantasy, in worry, in stories about who you should be and what you should have done. Meanwhile, this moment, the only moment you actually have, the only moment that's real, is passing you by completely unnoticed. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen master who brought mindfulness to the West, used to teach his students about presence through something beautifully simple, eating an orange. He would sit in front of a group, holding a single orange in his hands. Not doing anything with it at first, just holding it, feeling its weight, its texture. He'd turn it slowly, examining its skin, the tiny dimples and variations in color. Then he'd bring it close to his face and smell it, really breathing in that bright citrus scent. His students would watch, some confused, some impatient, wondering when the lesson would begin. But the lesson had already begun. Then he'd peel it, so slowly that it felt almost ceremonial, noticing the spray of oils as his thumbnail pierced the skin, feeling the way the rind released from the fruit, hearing the soft tearing sound. He'd separate each segment carefully, arranging them like petals. And when he finally ate it, he'd take one segment at a time chewing slowly, tasting completely, the sweetness, the slight tartness, the burst of juice. It would take him 15 minutes to eat a single orange. His students would watch, initially thinking this was some kind of endurance test. Why was he making such a ceremony out of eating an orange? They had things to do, places to be. But then he'd explain, and everything would shift. When you eat an orange while thinking about your bills, he'd say, "You're not really eating the orange. You're eating your bills. You're consuming worry with a side of citrus. When you eat while planning tomorrow, scrolling through your phone, watching television, you're not tasting anything. You're just refueling, mechanical, disconnected. But when you eat an orange with your full attention, something sacred happens. You're actually alive. You're actually here. You're experiencing the miracle of taste, of nourishment, of this fruit that grew on a tree somewhere under sunlight and rain, traveled across distance to reach you, and is now becoming part of your body. That's not small. That's life itself, fully lived. This is what the present moment means. Not some mystical state you have to achieve through years of meditation. Not some impossible standard of never having a wandering thought. Just this, being where you are, doing what you're doing, without your mind splitting off into 100 other directions. Buddhism calls this sati, often translated as mindfulness, but the word actually means something closer to remembering. Remembering to come back. Remembering that life is happening right now, not in the story you're telling yourself about the past or the future. Your mind will wander. That's not a problem. That's not failure. The human mind is designed to wander. It's how we plan, imagine, learn from the past, prepare for the future. The practice isn't achieving some perfect state of constant presence. That's impossible. And that's not even the point. The practice is noticing when you've drifted, and gently, without judgment, bringing yourself back. Again and again and again. That's the whole practice. Think of it like training a puppy. The puppy wanders off, and you don't scold it or shame it. You just gently guide it back, over and over, and eventually the puppy learns. Your mind is the same way. It needs patient, compassionate training, not harsh criticism. And here's why this matters so much for anxiety. Anxiety cannot exist in the present moment. Really think about this. Anxiety is always about something that hasn't happened yet or something that already happened. What if I fail this presentation? What if they don't like me? What if I lose my job, my health, my security? Or it's replaying past mistakes, past humiliations, building evidence for why you should be worried right now. But if you bring your full attention to this exact moment, Not the next breath, not the last one, but this one right here. Where is the anxiety? In this moment, are you breathing? Yes. In this moment, are you safe? Most likely, yes. In this moment, is anything terrible actually happening? Usually the answer is no. The present moment is almost always okay. It's your thoughts about the future or the past that create suffering. Let's do something together right now. Not later, not after you finish listening to this section. Right now. Take a breath in through your nose, filling your lungs completely. And let it out slowly through your mouth. Another breath in, deep and full. And release, letting everything soften. One more. Breathe in deeply, feeling your chest and belly expand. And let it go slowly, releasing any tension you're holding. Now take 2 more breaths at your own pace, your own rhythm. Notice, in those 5 breaths, where was your anxiety? Where was your worry about tomorrow or regret about yesterday? When you brought your full attention to just breathing, just being here, the mental noise probably quieted, even if only for a moment. That's the power of presence. That's what's available to you, always, in any moment you choose to return. This isn't about becoming some enlightened being who never worries. It's about having a refuge you can return to when the mind starts spiraling, when anxiety begins building its catastrophic scenarios. Your breath has been with you since the moment you were born, and it will be with you until your last moment. It's the most faithful companion you have. And when you anchor your attention there, even briefly, you step out of the time machine of anxiety and land back in the only time that's real. Now, why could this alone transform everything? Because anxiety feeds on your absence. Every moment you spend lost in thought, ruminating on what might happen or what did happen, your anxiety grows stronger. But every moment you spend actually present, anxiety loses fuel. It's like a fire that needs your attention, your worry, your mental participation to keep burning. When you stop feeding it with catastrophic thinking and future tripping, it begins to die down naturally. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to positive think your way out of it. You don't have to be strong or perfect or somehow transcendent. You just have to be here. Fully, completely here. But I know what you're thinking right about now. This sounds beautiful, but I have a demanding job, kids who need me, bills that won't pay themselves, responsibilities that don't pause just because I want to be present. I don't have time for 15-minute orange meditations or hours of sitting in silence. And you're absolutely right. Which is why this final piece is so important. You don't need to quit your job or move to the mountains or become a monk. You don't need to overhaul your entire life or abandon your responsibilities. Breaking the speed addiction, learning to live with presence instead of pressure, starts with something so small it might seem insignificant. Sacred pauses. These are tiny moments of intentional slowness, planted throughout your day like seeds in soil. Small acts of presence that interrupt the automation of rushing. Before you eat, pause for 3 seconds. Look at your food. Notice its colors and textures. Take one conscious breath. Before you open the door to your home, pause. Let work fall away. Let your shoulders drop. Cross the threshold with awareness. Before you speak, especially when you feel reactive or defensive, pause. Feel the words forming. Choose them consciously rather than reacting from habit. These pauses are rebellion. Small, quiet acts of defiance against a culture that wants you running on empty, too scattered to notice what's been stolen from you. There's a story about a corporate executive, let's call her Sarah, who discovered this practice during one of the hardest periods of her life. She was working 80-hour weeks at a tech company, managing a team of 30 people, barely sleeping, surviving on coffee and adrenaline. Anxiety was her constant companion. Her jaw ached from clenching. Her stomach was always tight. She couldn't remember the last time she'd taken a full breath. One evening, after another brutal 14-hour day, she sat in her car in the parking garage and realized something that stopped her cold. She couldn't remember the drive to work that morning. Couldn't remember eating lunch, though her desk had an empty container on it. Couldn't remember a single conversation she'd had that day with any real presence. She was living, but she wasn't there for it. She was like a ghost in her own life, moving through the motions while completely absent from the experience. That night, sitting in her car, something cracked, open. She started crying, not the pretty kind of crying, but the kind that shakes your whole body, the kind that's been building for months and finally breaks through. And in that breaking, she made a deal with herself. Every day, before getting out of her car, whether arriving at work or coming home, she would sit for exactly 1 minute. Not checking her phone, not planning her next move, not rehearsing conversations. Just sitting, breathing, noticing where she was, how she felt, what she needed. 1 minute. 60 seconds. She said it felt ridiculous at first, even indulgent. The first few days, her mind screamed at her to hurry up, get moving, stop being lazy. But she stayed with it. And within 2 weeks, something shifted. That 1 minute of pause began changing the other 1,339 minutes of her day. She started noticing when she was rushing unnecessarily, when urgency was just habit rather than reality. She began actually hearing her children when they spoke to her after work. She found herself taking full breaths throughout the day. Her anxiety didn't disappear. She still had hard days, overwhelming moments. But its grip loosened because she'd created a practice of returning to herself, of coming back to presence again and again. That's what sacred pauses do. They interrupt the automation, the mindless rushing from one thing to the next, without ever actually arriving anywhere. They remind you that you're not a machine programmed for productivity.